Hey, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday Night Cairo broadcast, sponsored by DE and Banner Brothers around the world. Hey, the block for the DE coming up is ending in March 26th. So basically, you got about 2 weeks to get it, but I'd say just do it tonight, today, not tomorrow. It's a beautiful place to have a DE, and it's always packed. So you might as well sign up now, so you don't have to be getting in a hotel that's 2 or 3 blocks away. So the DE block ends March 26th. The next DE is coming up. It's April 16th and 19th in beautiful, beautiful Clearwater Beach, Florida. And the speakers are going to be fired up. It's going to be just a great time to celebrate. So get signed up for DE, get your block, and if you have something to celebrate, get with your connect groups. If whatever color you are, if you don't know what color you are, just join the purple team and let us know how you're doing. If you're having some struggles, join your connect groups, share with it, let us know what's going on, whatever you need, and there'll be somebody there that can help guide you through whatever it is that you're struggling with or whatever your great success you're having. We want to hear back with you. The whole idea of this is stay connected from DE to DE to DE to where you don't have the ups and downs of life. Hey, our speaker tonight, he's been coming to DE, he said about 8 years. He's brand new in practice. He's in Woodstock, Georgia, went to Life University, and he's been, I remember when he came to DE before he was going to chiropractic school, a Marine, stud, and married to a beautiful lady named Anna that works in the practice with him. And when I saw him at DE, it's like, hey, I got to let him share his story because I know he's been around for a long time, just sit back in the back and just kind of one of those quiet studs. So want to let him share his story tonight. So with no further ado, let's hear it for Morgan Stauffer.
Hey everyone, my name is Dr. Morgan Stauffer. So just to get into a little bit about me, I'll start with just kind of how I got into chiropractic school. I was, funny enough, I was on a trip somewhere, and I was kind of between jobs. I had just shut down a sales company that I had owned at the time, and I was scheduled for a PT test for the fire department, and I was on a trip with some now close family friends of mine, but Dr. Brian Lieberman, that family, and my brother got really sick on this trip, and long story short, I asked him if he could go up and adjust him. He was like, yes, absolutely. Goes up, adjusts him, we come back down. He ends up just shooting us both texts and is like, thank you so much, I feel so much better. And that night, I remember, despite trying, I couldn't really sleep that well. And I just remember there was just kind of this gnawing thought of like, I should go to chiropractic school. And, I guess it was kind of not a gnawing thought that really left me because once I got back from that trip, I figured out whatever I needed to do. I think I needed some credits and something. I had to clep a class, but ended up getting into chiropractic school, thankfully. So from there, it was kind of like rest was history. I just kind of stuck my head down and then kept it down. I was able to graduate in a little under 3.5 years. I graduated and peaked. Well, I guess I rather peaked right before I graduated up in Ringgold, Georgia with Dr. Pat McCarver. I don't know if any of you guys know him, but he is a super sweet dude, super great, principled guy, I would say, to learn from. If you want to see someone who just like leads with their heart first, like I felt like it was a very great place for me to be able to peak and learn from. But after that is when, throughout going through school, I knew the entire time that I wanted to start a practice. I just kind of wasn't sure how or where. And when the time came and Anna and I were looking at where we wanted to start, it was kind of happenstance that we were in Woodstock to begin with. But the more we looked around the city, we just kind of fell in love with it. We liked that it was so family oriented, wanting to start a family one day. That was definitely something that was in the back of our head as well. And the rest was kind of history from there. So it's been really fun. And I'm definitely glad that I've had DE on the backdrop of not only prior to me getting into chiropractic school, but my entire education. Because for me, it's just been something that's been used as bumper since then. And every time I feel like I've strayed from that, something's done something to kind of knock me back in, right? Someone around here says that, there's two groups of people. There's DE and not DE. And, you definitely feel that when you start to stray from it. So, but anyhow, once we started practice, I think one of the biggest things that was really cool for me to watch, especially coming from my wife, was just the transformation, because she always believed in chiropractic. She had a massive, debilitating carpal tunnel, both hands. Of course, orthos told her that she was going to need surgery. It wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. And he said something snarky to her after leaving the office. I remember her telling me, I forget it off the top of my head here, but it was something along the lines of like, she's just not making the right decision for herself. So it was funny. But, fast forward a little bit, she does not even wear the splints that she used to have to sleep anymore, because she just started getting care. And this was before I had even graduated. So her belief in chiropractic was huge, but it's been really cool to watch her progression, because now she's, the type in the office where someone will walk out and she's kind of already telling me like, well, that's so silly. Like, they know this just takes time. Like, you can't expect it in one visit and this, that, and the other. And so she's repeating back a lot of the same principles that I think being in chiropractic for any amount of time, you start to take for granted, but you're like, yeah, that's exactly it. And so it gets really exciting. It's been really cool to watch that progression with her. And this for me is definitely something that I feel like I would not have been able to gotten as far as I have without her, hands down. We've definitely used each other as bumpers and used each other to sort of stay sane throughout this whole process so far. So that being said, I want to just get right into kind of what I wanted to talk about here. I don't want to take up too much time, because obviously I do not have the most experience in the world, right? I am within my first year of practice. I just graduated. If there's any students that are on here, I definitely encourage you, start a practice, do whatever it is that you want to do. I do firmly believe in just getting into it a little bit. I had someone tell me that like anything that you want in chiropractic, you can freaking have. And I firmly believe in that. But my point with this is just to say that I don't have a whole lot of experience, but what I do have is 7 months of the experience that I do have. And I've been learning a lot. And for me, it's one of those things where if it connects with even one person that's listening to this, then to me, it's worth it. Right. So what I want to talk about, I just want to talk about 3 things that I felt like are DE principles that have resurfaced for me, at least in the past 6-7 months or so, that I felt like have been just really helpful and grounding through the process of just starting the practice. So I'm going to run through them very briefly first, and then I'll kind of dive into a little bit more depth. But the first one is work is hard. I love to work. And I know this is something that we say just about every DE, and it's an affirmation first and foremost, but I felt like I didn't really understand the same depth that I feel like I maybe get a little bit more now. The second one, this is probably like 6 months ago or something. So this was fall DE, right before I was about to start, or maybe I just started. But the quote was to keep priming the pump, because you never know when it's going to start flowing abundantly. And if anyone remembers, feel free to put in the chat who exactly said that. But Brian and I had texted it back and forth to each other when whoever had said it. And then we just keep shooting it back and forth since then. So that was the second one. And the third one, so the third one's principle outworks position. And what I mean by that is not like, I mean more circumstance when I say position, right? So I want to get into these a little bit more in depth. So the first one, work is hard. I love to work, right? This is something that we say ad nauseum, and it's for a good reason, right? I don't know if anyone knows or has heard of Alex Hormozy. He's written a bunch of business books, seems to be a fairly smart guy. But one of the things that he talks about is how we frame the way that we think about work. And one of the things that he says is any form of the sentence of I work hard so that is kind of a bad way of framing that, right? And as chiropractors, I feel like I've seen this a lot, where we get in habits where it's, oh, I work hard so that, and not that two things can't be true at once either, but I work hard so that I can enjoy time off. I work hard so that I can take vacations when I want, right? I work hard so that my wife doesn't have to, whatever it is, right? We all have reasons, and it's okay to have those reasons. But when you make that the operating procedure for the conditions that you'll work hard under, the second that those things stop happening, you'll find that it becomes harder to justify your reason for continuing to bust your butt or work hard or whatever it is, right? And so, turning it, instead of I work hard so that I can do this, just turning it into I work hard because that's just who I am, right? With $0 coming into the bank, which in the first, few days, week, that's exactly what's happening, right? But you have to get in that habit, and you have to remind yourself that, like, I would be doing this with $0 because that's just who I am. I am just someone that wants to work hard. I pride myself on that. And when you make that the operating procedure for the way that you're doing things, I think that you have a lot more peace with it, because it's not hinged on something that's that's wavering, right? Working hard because I work hard is a principle that you stand by. Working hard to have days off, there's a ton of ways to work hard to have days off, right? But there's really only one way to do this, that you do it without it wavering in any way, shape, or form, right? And the other best way I can kind of depict this is, we always talk about giving for the sake of giving, loving for the sake of loving, out of your own abundance with no expectation of return, right? And I think that sometimes I have forgotten to just work for the sake of working, right? The least of which is because it's just good for our brains to work hard. But, they did this DE intensive at Life University this past weekend. And one of the things that Steve said is he was talking about opening up his 7th practice and just talking about all the stuff that they're doing around Florida. And in the back of my head, I was just like, crap, like I'm like 6 practices behind. But it was kind of a funny thought to have. But the point with this is that, like, I look at that and I think what goes off in my head is just that, like, that's not someone who couldn't, who needs the 7th practice, right? Steve probably could have been done it too, or a lot of other people could have been done by this point, but they don't, because the purpose, the principle, the reason that he's doing these things outweighs the work that he's doing, right? So the amount of money that you're bringing in is kind of irrelevant when you're looking at the reason that you're doing it, right? And that's exactly my point. We got to have a bigger reason for wanting to do these things. So that's first and foremost. That I work hard. Work is hard. I love to work. Great principle. Myself of, and I think it's an affirmation that I have seen through a lot more nowadays compared to maybe how I used to. So that's number 1. Number 2, keep priming the pump, because you never know when it's going to start flowing abundantly. So a lot of the stuff that I got from this, and it's funny because everyone that gets up and talks about this feels the need to preface this with, like, what priming the pump is, which, to be fair, I didn't know it until someone painted a picture for me. But the idea is obviously that you're priming this pump long before water ever flows out of it, right? Hence the end of the quote where it says, you don't know when your pump's going to start flowing abundantly. So the idea is to work past any point where you would ever see any return, right? If you can work in the absence of whatever the goal is that you're looking for, then I think that it makes you a lot more steadfast in what you're doing, right? And so part of the reason that I bring this up is because I feel like a lot more of the stuff that I've realized in the past 6-7 months or so has just been to sort of a do it anyway mentality. And what I mean by that is just that, I've heard some guys get up and speak and they talk about, do it tired, do it hungry, do it exhausted, do it first thing in the morning, do it last thing in the evening, whatever it is, right? And so I think this is something that, at least me in my practice, I've just gotten in the habit of just making my number 1, is just to keep your head down and keep working, right? You don't know at the end how it's going to work out. And because of that, you're not really a good judge of where you're at currently, because you can't really see the end result, right? And something I've kept reminding myself as I thought about this quote a lot was just, there was someone, and he was talking about something about quitting. And the idea behind it was, he was pretty much saying that, like, you shouldn't be afraid of failure because you can't lose if you don't quit, right? So obviously the idea behind it being there is that if I do not let myself close these doors, then there's no way that I can fail, right? And that's kind of what's been in my head, especially in the first few months, where that feels like a very real reality, where it's just like, all right, let me just put my head down and just keep working. I don't care what anything looks like. I just need to focus on helping people, right? And that kind of goes back to what we were talking before about having just the correct principles in place. But the other great way that I know how to sort of depict this is my story for Part 4 boards. So when I went to take them, I registered to have them done in Life West out in California. And so I flew out there to LAX. And for anyone that knows California geography better than I do, LAX is like 6 or 7 hours south of Life West. I did not know that. I had Part 4 boards the next day. And when I landed, it was about 10 o'clock at night. And so it was pretty jarring for me to realize when I punched in my hotel, I was like, this isn't anywhere close to my testing site. And so there was just this like fear-stricken panic over me for the next 2 hours. And I'm not kidding. I have like a backpack on. I'm like running from like car rental place to car rental place, trying to figure out somewhere to go. Long story short, I end up finding a car rental place. I drive up there. I get in at like 3 o'clock in the morning, go to sleep in a hotel, wake up, take this test. As soon as I get out of the Part 4, I have to get back in the car and get back to the airport to make my plane in time to get back home, right? So my whole point with this is that anytime throughout that trip, it would have been easy to say, screw it, I can take it again. I would have had it, and I would have had it. I have no doubts. But, if I'd have sat there and gotten in my head about like, well, this isn't going to be the outcome that I want, so whatever, right? I couldn't see it happening at that point because it was 10 o'clock at night and I still had to rent a car and make it 7 hours, right? But the reality of it is you keep your head down, you do the stuff that you know that you need to be doing without sort of the reward of the reason that you're doing it for, right? And it all turns out better, more okay than you maybe thought it would be, right? So obviously ended up passing Part 4 boards and was able to keep my things scheduled sort of how they were supposed to be, right? But had I started getting down on myself, I don't think I would have let that happen, or my mentality just would have been so crap going into it that I would have failed the exam regardless. So keeping on top of that, I think, can be a really important thing. So the whole point with this being obviously that working past the point or when you don't see any reward for it, especially here in the beginning, has been something that I feel like Anna and I have had to nail down on pretty hard. And I think, as we continue to move, we see highs and lows. And, I think one of the biggest things for me too is just realizing that your emotions are going to kind of go up and down like this. And if you can learn to keep yourself pretty even toned, when things go really good, it's going to keep you more even when things start to go really bad. And so you stop riding the waves of your practice a little bit more. And you just start saying like, this is going to work. And the more time that you get, the more you sort of have that confidence because you see things come and go and you don't stress the little stuff as much. And this is coming from someone who is probably stressing things today that 6 months from now, I won't be stressing nearly as much. But you gain perspective and you learn to kind of continue to move forward. So third thing, principle outworks position, right? And what I mean by that, again, is more so that principle outworks circumstance, whatever circumstance that you're in, right? Having a principle, having a moral, having a code, being a principled chiropractor, in my opinion, is one of those things where if you stick by that, it is going to outwork any obstacle in front of you because kind of like I was saying and hinting at before, it's an unwavering thing, right? And one of the reasons I think I see this a lot, at least here in Woodstock, Georgia, is, we're 30-ish minutes, maybe 40 on a bad day, 45, from Life University. The area can be very congested with chiropractors. And not only are we very congested with chiropractors, but we're congested with chiropractors who are doing the wrong crap and are not doing chiropractic, right? So I think especially as a new practitioner coming into that, you see a lot of people doing things that are making money, but it's not really chiropractic. And I think one thing my wife and I got out of the way, not long after we opened our doors was just like, I will close these doors before I go back on what I feel like this practice needs to look like, if that makes sense. And I remember thinking back, like I am not telling anyone they have a deficiency in red light therapy or any of this other stuff, because that's just not what they need. And again, if it's not principled chiropractic, then I would just shut my business down and I would go start it somewhere else, right? If I genuinely felt like it was affecting me that much, it hasn't, it won't, because I think principled chiropractic is something that if you maintain it long enough, right? Persistency alone is omnipotent. I think that people end up seeing that and they feel that, right? And so part of the reason that I bring all this up is just to say that not only the principle of how I practice, in the actual practice of it, keeping away from things that I know are not chiropractic, keeping away from things that I know are not subluxation based. I think furthermore, it goes in the way that we treat people and how we do things, right? So giving, loving, serving out of our own abundance with no expectation of return. Not everyone does that. And I don't think I noticed it until I started getting around other groups. Because I've definitely gotten the advice before, for example, of not bartering. Don't barter with people, right? It diminishes the value of chiropractic. And it's funny because it did not make sense to me because obviously I've seen a lot of good docs do it. And something, Dr. Way said something at this last DE intensive as well that really rang with me. I don't want to share it with you guys, but it was the clarity of principle. You can have the clarity of principle versus the confusion of compromise, right? And the point there being obviously that compromise is going to bring out more confusion and more gray area for you because you don't have a moral to ground you towards to know what it is that you're doing, right? And so for me, I don't feel like I've ever once thought about how I needed to practice or whatever the case, or how I felt like, or if I was giving away too much to patients. Like that's just never been a thought in my mind because it's always been in my head that this is how I was going to do things, right? And And my point with this, quick story with it, just to kind of like wrap up my point, is to say that back to the bartering thing. So I got a lot of advice from a lot of different docs and a lot of different groups saying don't barter, right? An event planner from up in Canton, which is close by us, came by and was like, hey, would you guys ever be open to a barter? Like, I have weird disc issues, low back, this, that, and the other. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, dude. Like, I look for reasons to barter for people. You know, at that point, it was just getting butts and seats, and I was doing whatever I could. And so I was like, yeah, absolutely. So he comes in, we start getting him taken care of. And the guy is hands down. So he's 28 years old. He has a beautiful wife, a kid, the most adorable little baby. And he is now hands down, like probably one of my best friends in Woodstock, right? So he's not only has he turned out to be this great personal relationship for me, but a chiropractor having an event planner in the back pocket, especially in the first year, has been huge for us. So over the next 3 or 4 months, this guy has helped us plan more events with us being, sponsors on it and stuff that we would not have originally been able to get on our own, all because I just remembered to be abundant and just remembered to put the care of chiropractic and people getting that care above whatever amount of money I was going to make from it, has really served us really well, right? And one of the ways that I kind of want to wrap this up is just to say one of the events that we're doing in August is, so we got a bunch of stuff going on, but I'm really excited about this one in particular because it's like a health and wellness event. It's going to be in downtown Woodstock, and 10% of the proceeds that we're doing are going to go to a men's addiction clinic here in Woodstock that's in the area. And if you're anything like me, you either know someone or know of someone or yourself has struggled with addiction, something like that. If you know me, you know that I have family and things that have come really close to that. So being able to put myself in a position where I can feel like I can start to participate and give back to that community as early in my career as I am, I felt like has been the most rewarding and like fueling thing, right? So, it's been really funny to look back on some of the decisions that brought me to that, because if I just stuck with like, just this money thing, I don't think I would have found that, or I certainly wouldn't have found the opportunity, right? So, I think a lot of times your abundance will open opportunities to you that you didn't know you have, or maybe that you didn't know you needed, because in the back of my head, I always kind of had it that I knew I wanted to do something to help with the addiction community. I just wasn't really sure how. And the right people just kind of lined up in front of me, and hopefully we can get this thing rolling. There's a lot of time and things that can need to happen before then, but with that being the base idea, it's been something that's been super exciting for me and very motivating as well, because again, this early in your career, you don't generally think of being able to have the capacity to do that kind of thing. So it's been really awesome. So again, guys, those are kind of my 3 points of things that I felt like have really helped me in the first 6-7 months. I hope that someone is connected with this, but I really appreciate the time and energy of everyone that got on, and I appreciate you guys having me.
Thank you, my man. Work is fun. I love to work. Work is fun. I love to work, right?
There you go.
I believe, don't quote me on this, but I know Dr. Sid talked about prime of the pump. And then Matthew Alvord, when we do the 49 breaths, he would always talk about prime of the pump. And it kind of goes back to what you're saying about the principle outworks the situation. If no matter what we do, if we have the principle, and not the principle of chiropractic, but the principle of lasting purpose, no matter what goes on in our life, we're prepared for, and you're doing great work. And the fact you're able to give back to something, 10% to something that is in your heart and your family's heart, that's huge. Give, love, and serve out of your own abundance with no expectation of return. Can't help but be in return greater. Does that make sense? That was great talk. And I love hearing young people come in and I've been doing this for 37 years and hearing your vibration and your enthusiasm and excitation. And guess what? 37 years, I still have those waves. So that's why I get on this stuff every week and listen, so I can keep myself calm. You know what I'm saying? So you're doing great, man. Thank you so much. I hope people out there got some gold nuggets in here from a young man, but very wise. So again, thanks for being here. Everybody, we'll see you next week, and see you April 16th at DE. Thank you, man. Doing a great job. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Love you all. Have a great night.